A little bit about me. My name is Matt Sonnentag. I'm the owner of the Bitworks. We have repair shops in Taylors Falls and Forest Lake, and we do service for business and residential customers. I've been in this business for about 30 plus years. I went to the UW Eau Claire, graduated from there, and then worked for various companies around the country before I started the Bitworks in 1999. We're going to go a little more in depth into passwords and security today. So one of the things that I want to do is let you walk away from here with a little better understanding about how you can secure your devices and secure your accounts. And we'll just go forward from there. So today's agenda is one, have you been hacked? We want to figure if that's the case, if you've actually been hacked or something has happened to you and your computer device. We're going to talk a little bit about passwords and password management. We're going to talk about something called multi-factor authentication and why that's important for you. And then we're going to have three little labs here. Securing your PC settings, securing your browser, and securing your Facebook profile. So those are three things that I hear about the most from people, so I really want to cover those today, if at all possible. Now, one of the things that I found out when I became a technology person is that I also had to be a psychology person. Because a lot of times I spend time with a customer convincing them, yes, you are in danger, you have been hacked, and I've discovered that it's way easier sometimes to fool somebody than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. There's a lot of other idioms we hear out there, like there's no such thing as a free lunch, that sort of thing, and I see this every day with people trying to acquire free software, do something a little bit more, a little less expensively, and all of a sudden they've been taken advantage of. So my job as a technology person many times is to be as well a psychologist and convincing you that we need to be able to do these things. You need to spend a little bit of money on some of these resources. And then the other thing that I've always done in my entire career is convince people they need to change. Now in these days, a lot of times what I'm trying to do is convince people to change their passwords because they always get in trouble with that. The other thing that we see a lot of issues with revolving around change are people not updating their computers or updating their operating systems. So when a patch or some security features come out, they don't download them and put them on their computer. And it causes a lot of problems. So change is one of those things that we find ourselves managing from day one in this technology business. So we're going to see if we can overcome some of that adversity to change and progress and all of that sort of stuff with a little bit more knowledge here today. So the first thing I want to talk about is, have I been compromised? Now, when somebody comes in and says, I get a lot of people coming into our store and saying, I've been hacked. And that means a lot of different things. And that word hacked has been tossed around. In fact, I have people who interview with me for a job saying, I'm a computer hacker. And you mean a programmer, or what do you mean? I'm looking for a technician or a programmer or whatever. I'm not looking for a hacker. But in most cases, what I prefer to call a damaged computer is a compromised computer, something that's dangerous, it has some problems, and we need to fix those. So what are the compromises that I see most out there? Number one thing that we see today are data breaches, right here. That's where your information is stolen. It could be a password, it could be some personal information from a website or some sort of piracy out on the internet. So that's the number one thing we see today, and I've got a little breakout right after this slide that we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then the next most common thing we see are compromised computers. So a compromised computer is something where you're having pop-ups, really unexplained, unexpected behavior. You're searching for something on the internet and all of a sudden you get something else or something that doesn't seem plausible. The other things we see on computer are these quote unquote virus messages that are usually something to get you to call a hacker, so not necessarily a technician. So, and then any kind of out of the ordinary behavior with a computer is something to make it suspect and let us suspect that there's maybe something going on with it. It's had some software installed on it accidentally or somehow it's been compromised. Finally, the next thing we'll see are what we call remote control or infiltration problems. And these usually come after you've had a computer compromised. It'll pop up a message and say, you've got a virus, call this number. And you call the number, and sure enough, you're actually calling the hacker. In this case, the person who wants to get at your information. When you call them, they'll give you a little code. You'll let them in your machine. And 30 seconds later, they've got most of your passwords, and you don't even know that they've got them. So that's one of the more nefarious things we see going on out there today. And then finally, we get down to the word viruses and malware and those sorts of things. Viruses used to be a lot more prevalent, less so now. Most of the antivirus software out there will catch these. The exception would be the newer things that people are developing and coming out with. And we'll see those once in a while too. But usually those are caught fairly quickly these days. So those are the different compromises that we see out there. The one that I want to talk a little bit more about are data breaches. And you can always tell that somebody's had their data stolen when they come in and say, I'm getting all these emails back saying that are undeliverable. And I've never emailed this person. You know, and I'll get all of these emails coming from this person, that person, and the message is something I never would have written. Well, certainly what's happened in that case is somebody has gained access to your email account. They're either logged in as that or they're sending mail through a server and they have your email credentials and are able to do that. So that's one of the indicators that you've been at some point involved in a data breach. If you have your Facebook friends saying, I already friended you and you're sending me a new friend request, did you like lose your information or something crazy like that? What we see a lot of today as well is people that break into these Facebook accounts and try to take advantage of your friends. And what they're doing is trying to solicit trust from people that they might not ordinarily trust. If you have a telephone, a cell phone, a smartphone, and you start receiving text messages with codes in it, codes that might be used to access a bank account, for example, you can pretty much bet that somebody has accessed your bank account, or they have your bank account username and password, or some sort of username and password, and they're trying to actively get into that account. And we'll see that from time to time. That's one of the things that that we always watch for with a data breach. Now we can see if our email accounts and cell phone numbers and those sorts of things have been pirated in the past. There's a website out here called Have I Been Pwned, or pawned in many cases is what people refer to this as. And we'll have a copy of this slideshow available for everybody. So when I show you links in here, you can get all this stuff later. And what that website allows us to do is to check an email address or a cell phone number and see if it's been involved in a data breach. So we're going to use this guy's cell phone number or email address. That's me. I've had this email address for about 15 years. And so I checked it the other day, and I so far have 22 data breaches that my email has been in. So it's one of those things where we we know that this happens to people over time. And one of the things that this site will do for us, if we go to the next slide, is it will actually tell us where this information has come from. So when I move down through this page, it will tell me that in 2019, October 2019, my email address was released, all of my former employers, geographic locations, job titles, names, phone numbers, and social media profiles, all were accessed by a hacker. Dropbox, pretty famous thing. A lot of you use that to upload and download pictures. They were hacked in 2012, very early on. But I already had a Dropbox account then, so my email address and password was stolen at that point in time. Epic is another company that's gone through a pretty significant data breach. They are a part of an online shopping network, I believe. So email addresses, physical addresses, so they know what my address is, my home address, my name. Evite, dates of birth, gender, names, password, phone number, physical addresses. I mean, it goes on, and we have pages and pages of this we'll see with some accounts. So what we want to do when these things have happened is there are different ways to mitigate this, the data breach. But the one main thing that we want to do is we want to just assess what they might have gotten. And if it's simply a password, what we want to do is make sure that we change that password right away. I mean, so if they've gotten an email address and a password, we change that password and we don't use it again anywhere. So we don't reuse that password again. One of the things that we found with these passwords is once they've been stripped, for example, from Facebook or from LinkedIn or Dropbox, is that list of passwords will be tried against everybody's account because it's a good password. Somebody's used it in the past. Chances are somebody else might be using that same password because they came up with the same brilliant idea that you did in terms of having a great unhackable password. But unhackable doesn't mean they can't steal it. So that's the first thing we do is try to find out what they've gotten. So changing their password is almost always a default. One of the things we ask people to do if they've been breached multiple times is sign up for banking transaction alerts. And you can do this on your bank's website, and a lot of times your banker can help you with this too, so that when transactions are happening, especially electronic ones, that you get notified that those are going on. In a lot of cases, we've also helped people request that a fraud alert be put on their credit report, and that's really easy to do as well. So especially when we have customers come in where their banking information has been compromised or somebody has gotten into their computer and actually accessed or stolen some money, we will help them put a fraud alert on their credit report. And it's really easy to do. So, and what that does is anytime anybody accesses that report in the future, it'll stop that report from going out until you're notified and you say okay. So if you go down and buy a car, you won't be able to do it until you get the email and let them know. In really bad cases, we advise people they freeze their credit or keep an eye on their credit report. We ask people to watch out for further scams down the line because these things seem to be coming in waves. First, we'll see some email problems or issues with email, so somebody's email might be hacked. And then 6 months later, all of a sudden they're back and something else has happened. Maybe they've had a tech support scam where somebody's called them and said, do you have a virus? And then they got into their computer. And then 6 months after that, suddenly they're into their bank account. So these things tend to come back in waves. Generally, the first attack that we see on people is done by a robot. I mean, it's a computer that's sitting out there in the internet and it's just trying to probe these accounts and see if it can get into them. One of the things we recommend, and you can bet that with 22 data breaches to my credit, that I've got a LifeLock or a Legal Shield account, and both of these companies provide identity theft protection So they watch my credit report, they watch my social media accounts, and if anything new happens, I get notified. So if I go out and buy a car or get a credit card or something like that, I'll immediately start getting emails from them. And then they have various programs to kind of clean you up as well and help with that. And then there's some insurance that goes along with that as well. So if you've been a victim, many times, been a victim of a data breach, many times these companies will actually pony up some free services from either this company or some sort of online credit monitoring, those sorts of things to make sure you don't get hacked in the future. So now we talked about changing passwords. First thing on our list. So I've got a list of do's and don'ts up here for passwords. Do make it strong. Do make it unique. The longer it is, the stronger it is. Make it complicated. I know you've probably heard all of this before. Do use a password manager, and we're going to talk about these programs in a little bit. And then do use something called multi-factor or two-factor authentication. Those things are all going to help you stay secure in the future. Things to never do. Do not use the password ABCD. Lots of people use this. And it's amazing today that people will use it. I did work for one lumber company in the past, and their password was tree. And it was hacked very quickly. So as soon as they got online with email. So stay away from using your kids' names, your hobbies, your dogs, cats, celebrations. I don't know how many fishermen that I've talked to whose password is muskie or big bass. And of course, the deer hunters all like big buck. And then the year they graduated. So, and then don't use the same password over and over and over and over again, because that will definitely get stolen at some point. And if it does, then you're changing passwords on accounts everywhere. So, when we talk about passwords, one of the things that I always ask people to do is come up with an easy to remember phrase. And it can be as silly as you can make it. Figure out a way to add in some numbers and special characters into that phrase, and then avoid a couple of different characters. Lowercase L's are not good because they look like ones, and capital I's. Stay away from the capital I's because they look like ones and lowercase L's. And then stay away from the capital O's as well because they look like zeros. And so when you're writing these down, we want to make sure, if you're writing it down on a piece of paper or whatever, this password, make sure you can tell what it is a day or two later. So I came up with some examples of passwords up here that I've used. Just a few this morning. Do they make any sense to anybody? Well, let's go with the first one. Buffalo Bills Wild West show came to town on 9/28. And I just used the last letter of everything, throw in a date at the end. And that date can actually probably be a grandchild's birthday if you really want it to be. It'd help you remember that too. The reason I like to put in numbers on these things is because I like to increment them. So if somebody's asking me to change my password every 3 months, I'll probably keep this password for a year and just change the end number. But I won't keep it for 2 years or 3 years or anything like that. I really want to avoid doing that sort of thing. So that's one way to do that. But so the other nice thing about this is a nice hint. If you need a hint to remember what this password is, you can just put in Wild West show in the hint box in your computer, and you'll probably figure out what that is. Here's another one. Ford V8 cars make great rolling tomato launchers. So nonsense phrases. They really work good. Of course, another number in here, so I can have a V9, a V13, or V16, or whatever I want to do. But I can move that up as we move along. Any guesses on the last one? All right. Mailbox pirates get snowplowed. So, mailbox pirates, pirates, get, and then I put a little snowplow here with the parens. So that's what we kind of come up with these silly little phrases that you can use, and I've seen people use pieces of nursery rhymes, that sort of thing, because those are really hard to guess. And you can always figure out what they are again if you remember that piece. So, yes,
so
sir.
each one, like you said, you should change them every 6 months or whatever, but after your little phrase, for example, or after your password, part of the password, how about in parentheses actually put like today's date so you know when to change it?
Yeah, the question is, so we're asked to change these every so often. In parentheses, put in a date when it was changed, and you could certainly do that and actually make that part of the password if you wanted to. Or if you're writing it down, and many we'll see later, and some of these password manager software packages actually record the dates and all of your previous passwords as well, so you can know what they've done in the past. So that's my password advice for people. You can take it or leave it, but this works for me, and it's really easy to remember. So the next thing we ask people to do is test their passwords. There's a place out there called security.org, How Secure is My Password, where you can actually type in a password, and it will tell you how long a computer will take to crack that password. Some passwords can get cracked within a few seconds. Others, we want people to shoot for at least 3 weeks. Now, what we rely on here as well is that whatever website or service that you're logging into, we rely on them having some sort of protection that's going to know if people are attempting to probe or access your account and blocking that sort of thing. So we want something that's going to be out there a ways so that those people have a chance to do that sort of thing. If you're having trouble coming up with a password, passwordgenerator.net. You can go there and say, I need 12 characters, and they'll generate a password for you. I don't believe those passwords are checked at all, so that's something to take a look at. Back to that Have I Been Pwned website, there's a section on there where you can click on passwords, and you can see if a password you've come up with has been compromised in the past. If it has, maybe somebody came up with this password years ago and it was hacked into and stolen. You can figure out what's going on there. Password management software is a great tool. It is not for some people. It can be a little tough to use, but it does do a lot of neat things. One, it will generate a really long, complex password and put it on your accounts. You only need to remember one password, the password to get into it. And then the other thing it will do is track password changes. Many of these software packages will also go out and notify you right away if something has been breached. So if you were signed into Amazon.com, for example, and some of their email addresses and passwords were stolen, it will notify you of that and tell you it's time to change the password. And there's at least one of them I know that does a blanket change every 6 months. We'll go out and actually try to change all of these passwords for you. The final password management tool, and if you are not in business and it's just maybe you and your wife or spouse or whatever hanging around, good old-fashioned notebook, write them down, keep track of them. If there's nobody in and out of your house, there's no hackers that are going to come and break into your house and steal your notebook. Just don't lose it. It's not a good thing to lose. In every case, I always advise making sure that somebody knows how to get into both of these should something happen to you. And so we all eventually have to go away, and we always want to make sure that whoever's left to clean that up has the ability to get in and close those accounts, manage them, and that sort of stuff. So it's really time-consuming and expensive to get into people's accounts that aren't recorded.
Password managers ever get compromised?
The question is, do those password managers ever get compromised? I have not heard of one yet, but that's one of the things that we want to make we want to kind of vet when we're picking one. And so one of the things that that I did the last couple of days is when I went out and looked at the best reviewed ones. All of these password managers will keep a database online that's encrypted, so nobody can get into it. And then you sync that up with your different devices. So if I change a password on my phone, it synchronizes with what's on the website, and then when I get on my computer later, it pulls that same password down. But that information is always encrypted, and the one thing I would always encourage people to do is check out these companies to make sure that they have some good practices in place in terms of security.
So how would you sync them then?
So the question is, how would these sync up? And there's usually an application on your PC, and there's an application on your phone and whatever other device that automatically syncs these things up whenever you log in. So what it is, I think I've kind of described it a little bit. It'll actually sit in your browser, and you'll see mine later in some of our other training. And whenever a password field pops up, it'll show up right there and say, do you want to autofill the password? Or maybe it'll automatically fill it for you. And you just click the button, and boom, you're logged in. You don't have to remember it, and you know that it's 25 characters long and has all kinds of hieroglyphics in it, and nobody's going to guess that. One of the ways that I use this, my wife and I both share my single password account. So she has my username and password, and what she does is when she logs into her website, she logs in and it records her email address and her passwords, as well as mine. That way we can get into each other's accounts if we need to. So and many times these things come with a free trial, or they have a free version of them. And I can kind of tell you what's going on with each of these. These are actually ranked Keeper number 1, the Zoho number 2, Dashlane number 3, LastPass number 4, and Bitwarden is number 5. This is how they were ranked last year by PC Magazine. So they did a review of all of these things. The one thing I always concentrate on is what's easiest for you to use. So try a couple of them out if you want to try. Most of them offer a free trial. Some of them are free forever, provided you don't use them on any more than one device. So if you're working on just a laptop computer, and that's all you have, by all means, just go ahead and get a free version of LastPass. I mean, they're a good one, or Keeper. Both of those offer a free trial that only runs on one device. When you want to use it on your phone, as well as your laptop and your computer, you're going to have to buy the copy. Generally, these are about $40 a year. The one that is free is this Bitwarden, which is an open source package. They do also have a $10 a year paid version as well. So, but I think Zoho's $12 a year. Keeper is $35. Dashlane's another $35. LastPass I think is $36. So, pretty inexpensive products.
Let's not forget 1Password for Mac.
1Password for Mac?
That's a big one.
Yeah, well.
Because you're a PC world, and there's maybe some Mac people.
Yeah, there's some Mac people here that keep stuff in their keychain. They keep everything in the keychain. There's also Dashlane that works well on the Mac. So very well integrated with the Mac. So those Macs can get hacked as well. So the next thing we want to go through here is we're going to talk about multi-factor authentication. And what multi-factor authentication is really asking you two things to be able to log into an account. So you're asked for a password, and then you might be sent a text message and you're asked to enter a code. You might be asked, what city were you born in? Because you've asked that security question in the past, or answered that security question in the past. And you might have also told everybody on Facebook what city you were born in if you answered some of those silly questions. So, but that is, having these multiple things we ask for are all great things to use to log in and make sure you are you. If you're asked just two things, it's It's usually called two-factor authentication, and that's what most websites use, most services use these days are two-factor authentication. Most common thing I see out there are text messages sent to your phone. Those are very good and very thorough. They really are helpful in protecting you. We see biometric stuff, and you'll see those little biometric fingerprint readers on computers, and your cell phones all read your fingerprints now and all that good stuff. You know, the stuff with spy movies where somebody's cutting off somebody's finger or trying to pluck out an eyeball or whatever. But not so much anymore. I mean, those sorts of things are kind of going away. You'll see a lot more of it on the phones than you do on the computers. A code generating application, which is one of the things we're going to go through, code generator that actually generates a little spy code on your phone as you're using it. Security questions, and of course a good old-fashioned phone call. A lot of our Microsoft accounts, when we initially register those, Microsoft actually gives us a call, and it's an automated system, and asks us, either tells us the code or asks us to verify that we have logged in with that account. So that's what multi-factor authentication really is. It's just asking you multiple things to make sure you are you. So
I have a question. That's one of the things that's a problem for me when we send a message with this text message with the code. So if I'm not where I have access to another computer, how do I go back to that, go find that in the email address, and then come back to where they're asking for with the code?
okay, so the question is, if you're not at your computer and logging in and you can have ready access to your phone, how do you get this code? A lot of times these phones will show you at the very top. It's kind of quick. If you're trying to log in with the phone and get the text message on the phone, is that at the same time? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that the question? Is how do we get back to those? You can also close those applications and move to the text message app and see the message in there as well. And I think that we can probably go over that with you in a lab afterwards here. I'll show you how to do that. So, and switch between applications. So let's talk about some of these code generators, which are the cool little things we wanted to show everybody. It's really easy to use. There are a lot of these out here. Two most popular ones are from Google, Microsoft. There's a couple other manufacturers here. I can't even remember what their names are, but there are probably 100 different companies that offer a code generator software. And so if we bring these up, they oftentimes work on the same passcode as your phone does, but they show us little codes simply like this, and they just keep changing over and over and over and over again. So, and then you can have codes for different websites, different applications, those sorts of things. Almost all of our email services use a multi-factor authentication with a code, as does Facebook, and a lot of other social media websites also employ that as well. Strangely enough, the banking industry has not moved in this direction quite yet. So to install the app on our phone, we have a couple of different things here. We can use Google Authenticator, and this is, I think, the Mac Apple Store. That's what it looks like in the Apple Store. Down here, this is what it looks like in the Android or the Google Play Store. So to install this, we can simply just open up the Play Store and say Authenticator app. Look for the Google or the Microsoft one, and go ahead and log in. Sometimes the easiest way to do this is to sign into your Microsoft or Google account on a PC, and then you can have two things to use at the same time, so you're not flipping back and forth between applications on a phone. It's a little tough to do, and we just kind of talked about that. You can do it right from the app on your phone as well, so just download it onto your phone, and it'll walk you through the steps. But it just might be a little easier to do on a computer. And today we're going to kind of walk through that. what it takes to do this on a computer. First thing we do is we log into our Microsoft account, and so we just, I fire up my browser and say, log into Microsoft, and it'll take me there and ask me for my username and password. Once I've logged in, one of the things I want to do is click on this two-step verification at the very top of the screen, and that'll start the process of generating a unique code for me and my phone. So we click on that, it'll ask me to verify my identity, and it's going to do this several times because it wants to make sure it's me. If you do not have a phone number associated with this account yet, it'll make you do that first. So it'll make you put in a phone number where you can get a text message or a phone call. So in this case, I'm sending a text message to my phone, so I just click on that, and the next thing it does is it says, okay, well, so what were the last 4 digits of that phone number? Because it's going to believe right now that you are not you because you're messing around with the security of this system. So I have to type in my last 4 digits of my own phone number here, and then I can click on send code. If I can't do that, it won't send the code. So if somebody else happened along your computer while you had all of this stuff open and you had to walk away for some reason, somebody can't hop on and do this to you. After we've sent the code, we're asked to enter it back in here. And once we do that, it'll click verify, and then it takes us to the point where we can actually turn this on. So we're being asked multiple times to verify who we are, and it'll many times do it in multiple ways before we can actually do that. On the security page here, we have a little two-step verification at the very bottom, and we click on that, and it'll walk us through or show us what the process is that we've got to follow. It'll ask us to set up the Authenticator app on our smartphone, and then it'll have a recovery code in there as well if we need that. So on the next screen, we have a couple of options here. If we're doing this on a phone and we haven't downloaded the app yet, we can click on Get It Now, and it'll download the application and take us on to the next step. If you already have the application on your phone and you haven't set it up, you can simply click on Set Up a Different Authenticator App, and it will do this. It will generate this little QR code that is right here. That QR code is unique to you. So it's actually a link that's out there. And what you'll do then is click on the plus sign within the Authenticator app, and I'll show you that on the next screen. It'll have a little plus sign in here, or you also have a button here to add the account. And when you do that, it'll bring up this number 2 page here. So it brings up your camera. And so you just hold your camera up on the computer screen, and it'll read that code, and boom, it's on your little device here, and it's generating numbers. As soon as we do that, the next thing that it will do online is ask us to verify that code. So it'll ask us to type that in the first time. Now, unfortunately, I didn't copy that screen when I was putting this slideshow together, so you won't see that. But the next thing we want to do with this is if we want to add other accounts, we'll click on the 3 dots up in the corner, click on Add Account, and then we can add either personal accounts or work accounts for email, or we can add other kinds of accounts. So you can put a Google account on your Microsoft Authenticator, and you can put a Microsoft account on your Google Authenticator, but they just are what they consider other accounts. You can also put Facebook and everything else in here as well. There are a lot of services that support these now, so they're nice to use. So Google offers the same thing. So if you're getting the Google Authenticator, it's the same process. You're logging into your Google account. When you get in, there's an option for sign-in and security. You would go ahead and click on that. It'll ask us, if you've turned it on already, it'll say that it's on. But we want to go ahead and do that. So we'll click on two-step verification. It'll then tell us what it's going to do, the process. It has a little wizard it walks us through. And The first thing it asks us to do again is sign in again. In spite of the fact we've just signed in, it's asking us to do that again. It wants to verify that we are us. If you do not have a phone number associated with your Google account, it'll make you add one at this point. If you already have it here, it will ask us this and ask us if we want to get a text message or a phone call. So if you want a phone call, it'll call us and it'll say your code is 1612 or something like that. So you can click the appropriate box and then click on try it, and then it'll send a verification code to you. So we're going to go ahead and sign in with that. This is kind of complicated, and you go through the same thing over and over again, but eventually you get to the end of this. It worked, turn it on, and say yes, we turn it on, and then it'll say it's turned on. How do we want to do our two-step verification? Do we want to have a text message? Do you want to have the Authenticator app? And we want the Authenticator app. So we're going to go down in the list and we'll select Authenticator app, and it'll say setup, and it'll ask us what phone it's for, if it's an Android or an iPhone, and then we click next, and then it'll show you another one of these QR codes. So we can go ahead then and scan that with the Google app, and that looks a little bit different on the phone. If we are adding an account here, it'll have a plus sign up in the top. This one already had a Google account in it, and then it gives us the option to scan the barcode. When we click on that, we'll see the camera comes up, and all we have to do is just hover over this code, and it will add our code to our authenticator. Real simple to do, but lots of steps over and over and over again. So I think it confuses people sometimes, but they do want to verify that it's really you doing this. So once we do that, I did remember to copy this screen. It will ask you what code you see on your phone right now. So then you put in that code and you verify, and then from then on it will ask you to enter that code as well when you are logging in. And so then we can simply click on done. So one of the important things to note is that these codes are only used by you on your phone. They are not needed by tech support at any company whatsoever. So if anybody ever calls you, or you're going to support for your bank or Facebook or whatever, and they ask you for this code, they can get into that another way. They do not need this code, and they're either not very well trained, or they're a scammer of some sort. So the next thing we're trying to get to today is securing our devices. And that would be either a Mac or a PC. We want to talk about some of the important things to do everywhere that we always see are problems. You know, people don't have an antivirus package, or their firewall is turned off, or they haven't kept their operating system up to date. Antivirus and security packages come on every one of these devices. Microsoft releases one with Windows now. It is not quite as robust as many of the third-party packages, which I think will make a lot of people a lot safer if they bother to purchase them. So we're going to go through this process for both the Mac and a PC. First thing, we'll go through the Mac option. Up in the very corner, you'll have an Apple, which is our Finder, and we click on About This Mac, and it will generally show us right away what version we are running, as well as give us an option to update our software. As time passes and your Mac gets a little older and a little older and a little older, pretty soon it'll stop taking updates, because your hardware is incompatible with the newer software, which means that Apple's stock is going to go up some more, because you're going to have to buy something. That's very common in the Apple world, is that suddenly, you know, this generation of MacBook will not update any longer, and if you want an update, you're going to have to go out and purchase something new. So, but clicking on software update will get us to this page, and we always want to automatically install these updates and ensure that we get all of our security data files and that sort of thing. You can update versions of Mac software here, but we want to make sure that these boxes are always checked. And if you have any updates available, you can go to Show Updates as well, and it'll let you install them right then and there. The next thing that we want to do on a Mac is go back out to this little Apple icon, and then System Preferences, and then I'd ask everybody to click on the Privacy and Security options. These are things that we want to make sure are in place everywhere. And it's amazing how often I see these not here. So people will uncheck them because it's a little quicker to use the computer or whatever. One, we want to make sure that a password has been set for this user. And if it doesn't, we want to require one. So we also want to have all these boxes checked so that it requires a password if it goes to sleep. So you have to log back in order to get at it. And we want to disable automatic login. We do want to have the Mac App Store and identified developers checked. Anywhere is really dangerous. So try not to make sure you download apps from anywhere. Oftentimes when you get into this box, this will have a little lock on it. And in this case, it has been unlocked because somebody has entered the password for the machine already. If yours is locked, you'll have to click on that, and it'll prompt you for your administrative password, and you'll enter that, and it'll unlock these options so you can change them. The next thing that we look at here as we go across the top is we want to make sure that we go check on our firewall, and we want to make sure our firewall is on. And if in some cases you'll have a third-party firewall if you've purchased antivirus package or something like that. And that will have some options in here as well, perhaps to change that. The final thing that we check here is the privacy option. And there are two things in here we want to check, although there are a number of things that we can look at. So basically what this is saying is location services of the machine. What can access that? Well, the weather app can access that. We really want the weather to know, we want the weather to know what location we're in, so it'll tell us won't tell us it's 86 and sunny out, which is really what I'd like it to be today. But, and then also the calendar app uses that for setting meetings. And you may see some other services down below as well that use that. You can turn that off and on if you want, but the one thing I would ask you to do is inspect these applications and make sure that no strange applications are accessing your location. That way you're not being tracked. The other thing that's further down in this list is our screen recording options. And this may or may not have things highlighted. We want to make sure that things aren't recording our screens, especially strange applications. You don't want them recording your keystrokes because they may be monitoring your keystrokes and sending them off to someone else. Now keep in mind that if you call me up at my office and ask for some remote support, we connect via a screen recording application. So one of the things that you will have to do is make your way into here and allow me to see your screen if we're doing some remote support. So if you have a problem with your Mac and you're calling us up, we'll direct you to go here and make sure that you check the box for our little application that's BitWorks Remote Control. Otherwise, we can't do a thing for you. So on Windows, we start off by clicking on the little up arrow down in the corner by the clock, and we have a bunch of different icons down here. The one that we're looking for is the one that's the shield. And you can see with mine that says Windows security actions are recommended, so I'm not secure. You can see this was yesterday because it is cold. So, when you click on that, this screen will appear. And basically you want to have green check marks everywhere. here. You'll notice that my app and browser control is, has a bad setting on it, what it considers a bad setting. Because of some of the software we use in the repair business, I have to have this turned off, otherwise it identifies my software as a virus immediately and removes it. So, and it gets real frustrating to have to reinstall it several times. So, but some of the software we use to recover passwords and that sort of thing requires that I turn that off. The other thing that you can do in here is check your device performance and health, and that will tell you if you need to do any updates or that sort of thing. To get to our updates, which is the next thing we want to do on a PC, I go down and click on the magnifying glass and I type in settings. And settings options shows up here, and then this Windows settings screen shows up. On here we're interested in two things, privacy and then update and security. So the privacy is something that a lot of people are concerned with. So we're going to click on that first. And we always have, there are a number of things related to privacy here, and a lot of people are interested in the camera, making sure that only certain applications can access that camera, because you don't want anybody spying on you. Same is true of a microphone. In this case, the location for my device is on, and the reason that I have that on is so that my little weather will tell me it's 38 degrees and colder than cold outside. But I don't have any applications that I've downloaded on the machine that can access that. If an application wants access to that, it will usually ask me prior to doing that, and it'll turn it on for a very short period of time. Some things, you may want this turned on for more apps if you're using a laptop, especially from different locations. So as you're moving around and plugging in here or plugging in there, you want your laptop to be updated with the location information that you're at. The other thing that we see in here, there is a Find My, further down in here, I believe, there is a Find My, oh no, it's actually on the next screen. So on the next screen is our updates screen. So if we go back here, what I'm doing is clicking on this, and what it will do is ask us to check for updates. And we will make sure this is happening. A lot of times we'll see computers come in that have a huge long list of updates, and they're all downloaded and ready to install, but not installed. And it's because people turn off their computer and they don't let it sit for time so this thing can go through its process of updating. So it's always good every once in a while to leave your computer on overnight so it'll run these updates, because it will generally automatically restart for you. If you have a laptop or a Windows phone, this Find My Device option is very useful. It's something you might want to make sure that you have set, and because it will tell you where your laptop is located if you misplace it or somebody steals it or whatever. And we can also, I believe with that, we can erase it if we need to. So, other things that show up in here are backup. So if you haven't set up your backup, this is where you come to do that. And you can back up to a little flash drive or whatever for your computer. Now I'm going to go into securing your browser. Generally, the first thing we do with a browser is we check our browser extensions when we have people come in, especially if they're having pop-ups or they're ending up in a strange place when they searched for something. If you clicked on something and I ended up someplace else, generally it's a browser extension that's hijacking you. Yes, sir?
What is an extension?
An extension adds functionality to the browser. So what you want to do, for example, if you're using Google Docs, it will allow that browser to see that list of documents and open it up. So that's what an extension does. And I'll show you some extensions here in just a few minutes and we can kind of talk about what those do. Other things we ask you to do is do not save your passwords in the browser. Lots of people do this. I see people do it all the time. It'll ask for a password and they say save password, yes. If your machine is compromised, they will get this off of there within the first 10 seconds. They will suck down a copy of this, and then they will sit on their machine at their leisure and decode what's there. And it happens very quickly. So we always recommend a strong antivirus package. We also recommend that people disable autofill, and then they look at their cookies once in a while as well. Autofill will autofill passwords or autofill information about you. You can store your credit card information in your browser and automatically shop. Probably not a good idea if you have grandkids that are on Amazon with your computer. And then we ask people to update their browser as well. So we'll kind of go through that. I'm going to go through the Chrome browser. That's what a lot of people use. All of the other browsers are very similar to this. To get at the settings in Chrome, we click on the three little dots up in the corner, then on More Tools, and then we have Extensions. We can also go to Settings down here as well, and that will get us to this Extensions as well. So we click on that, and then this is the screen that shows up, and you'll notice at the top that it says Chrome.//extensions. So to get to settings, we're just going to type in Chrome./settings, and it goes there. So these extensions allow us to extend the functionality of this browser. For example, I have one down here in the bottom that lets me look for Wi-Fi devices that we sell on our network. And what that does is it allows me to configure those things when I'm selling them to a customer. Here you see my password manager. It's an extension, so it shows up in here. And that's this little guy right up here. I also have extensions for Cisco WebEx, which is a support function thing. Zoom isn't in this one, which is kind of weird, but I have an online shopping thing that's in here that's pretty safe as well. And then a number of other little things that I like to use just to make my browser a little more Mac friendly. So the next thing we're going to do is move to the settings. And so I just typed in settings up here and went to here. And so these are my browser settings. The ones we're really concerned with here are autofill and privacy and security. The autofill is where we store our passwords, payment methods, and addresses. And if we go into there, you will see a list of passwords that you have saved. And you can actually click on there's like a little eyeball next to them, and you can see what the passwords are. I mean, it's not real hard to do. You can also store payment methods like credit cards in there and addresses and that sort of thing, and the browser will autofill it.
So you're saying we shouldn't use autofill?
Well, I'm saying you should not do that if you're using it. So probably okay to fill in your address or maybe your name, that sort of thing. Helps with filling out forms and that sort of thing on the internet. But definitely stay away from saving passwords and credit card information in here because that can all be stolen very easily. Privacy and security is where you'll see your locations, cookie, and browsing data. And so you can go in there and you can delete old cookies. Cookies are not bad. It's just information about websites that help you come back there. The problem with cookies is that other people and other websites can read them. So if I have a Facebook cookie in my browser, Amazon can read that Facebook cookie and see what I searched for last and show me an ad for it. So can Google. And that's why you see when you search for a new car, or you're on a new car website, or let's say the GMC dealer's website, you'll suddenly start seeing ads for GMC and Facebook and Amazon and everywhere else. It's because they're reading those cookies off your computer. And if you don't want them to do that, you can go in and tell them to delete that after a day or two. Keep in mind that if you've adjusted the screen color or something useful to you on that website, that information will disappear with the cookie. So, and also browsing data, computers tend to hold on to that for years and years and years, and you want to get rid of that at some point in time. Within this tab, you'll also find a safety check, and you can go ahead and run that, and it'll tell you if your browser is safe or not, if you have some bad extensions, or if you haven't configured something correctly. Finally, down the very bottom is a little link that says About Chrome, And if you need updates to Chrome, you can click on that and it will give you a link where you can update to the latest version. And now I know the latest versions actually will put a little message up here in the corner of the screen saying update. It's a little orange circle that says update. So that's securing Chrome. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about today is Facebook privacy and going into a little bit of that. Facebook, I see this as I think that it's a great thing. Social media is a great thing, great to contact people, but it also has its downside because a lot of our information is out there and it's easily stolen and that sort of stuff. But checking some of these privacy options will help you make sure that that does not happen. To get to this, you log into Facebook, and in the very upper right-hand corner, you're going to click on the down arrow, and then Settings and Privacy, and then I'm going to have you all go to Privacy Checkup. And when we go there, we will see this screen show up, and it's who can see what you share, keeping your account secure, how people can find you, data settings on Facebook, and then ad preferences. And the ad preferences aren't really ad preferences, it just tells you to go someplace else. So, but you'll see a lot of Zuckerberg talking to Congress speak in here. So there's a lot of that is in here. So, so who can see what you share? So this is your profile, and it's my profile. I've blanked out some things on here. I don't want people knowing when I was born or that sort of stuff today. So, and only me, if you're my friend on Facebook, you can see what year I was born. But only me can see my phone number and my email addresses. You can all see that I'm from the cheese curd capital of Wisconsin. And my friends can see that as well. And there's a list of more stuff that's down here. Who can see it? Is it just friends, friends of friends, everybody, that sort of thing? And you want to go through and kind of look at this, pick and choose. And then when we click next, we will go to posts and stories, and what are we going to see there? One of the things that I do periodically is I come in here and I limit my past posts. So what that will do is everything over X number of years old will get deleted so that it's not showing up in my news feed. I can still see it. If I shared it with you, you can still see it for years and years and years. But if somebody, just trolling around on Facebook is looking, they won't be able to see that information. So I can limit who sees that. So, and then next, when I click on next, it will take us to blocking. And these are people that I've blocked on Facebook. So I said, I don't want you contacting me. I don't want you trying to friend me, that sort of thing. They'll show up in a friend request, and it's like, I don't know who you are, or we've had some problems with you in the past. And so I've got 16 people out there right now. So I don't know if they're still around or not, but they're mostly scammers, I believe. So. Then we click on next and we're all set. So that's done. Next we'll go through keeping our account secure. And right away it will tell me my password's okay and I have two-factor authentication on and login alerts are on. If you need to change your password, it'll do it here. You can put in whatever you'd like there, or you can simply click on next, which is what I did. And then two-factor authentication. So if you want to turn on the little code, the barcode for here, this is where you do that. So you click on manage and it will give you a bunch of options on how to secure your account so that you need to have that code in order to log in. Very useful because these are the accounts that we see getting hacked the most out there. The people are getting compromised and they log in and all of a sudden there are four mats out there and you don't want to know all but one of them. So controlling where the alerts go to. So if there is a login to my account and somebody's logging into my Facebook account, I really don't want the person logging into Facebook to see it, so I want to turn that off. I don't let Messenger do it either. I want that message in email. So that's the way I've set this. You can set it other ways, but I really don't see a point in letting the potential hacker know that Facebook's on to them, should they log into my account. So once we're done, we click on we're all set here, and then we go to our next option is who can find you on Facebook. The first thing we see are friend requests that are out there, and I've got a couple right now that are there. And then it also tells you who can send you a friend request. And there are options here for invite only. So only people the only people who can be your friends are the ones that you invite. So I ask you to be my friend, and that's it. You can't find me on Facebook and request to be my friend. It will not accept the friend request. So if you come through here and you're getting friend requests that you don't really want, you might want to limit who can send you this. So in my case, I set it up as friend of friends. And half the people that are my friends, I end up just unfollowing anyway. So, question?
Yeah, with Facebook, if you don't want a presence on Facebook at all, but you kind of like to use, I'm not on it.
Uh-huh.
But if I didn't want a Facebook presence, like, I'd like to be your friend, check in on her.
Yeah.
I don't want.
You could set this to completely private or invite only.
Okay, so you don't have a presence at all. Nobody knows that
You have an account, and Facebook knows you have an account, and advertisers would know you had an account. But anybody else would not be able to, they might be able to know that you have an account on here, but they would not be able to send you a friend request at all. So you wouldn't have any.
I worry that would seem rude, that I'm.
Well, for some people, they want to be protected. And so, and that's, we'll see that a lot, especially with invite-only people are typically celebrities.
Well,
Yeah, so,
somebody may think,
so,
that's what I'm thinking too,
but-
but I just don't really want it in my life, but it was,
yep,
maybe there's.
yep. There's some neat stuff on there. There's also some bad stuff. So,
Sometimes you can't access some things unless you have go to Facebook, like even a business or.
yep, yeah,
It can be useful.
they work through Facebook. So the question was, can we have just a kind of a view-only account in Facebook? And you can kind of pull that off by setting this up as invite-only. So then eventually you'll get friends, and then they know you're on Facebook, and they'll yeah. So then we have problems. So if we click on next here, you'll get to see who can see your phone number and your email. I really don't care who can find my phone number or my email because I'm in business and I want business people to know that, so I want people to find my phone number and call me. Some people may want to set this to nobody or private, completely private. A lot of people do. Search engines. This is a big one. If you turn this off, people on Facebook can still find you, but you cannot find me in Google if this is off. So I don't want people perusing my Facebook account. Young job seekers, this is probably a good thing to do, because the first thing I do as an employer is I search for your name and I see what you've been up to. So, but in general, I advise people turn this off, because if you allow the search engines to index some of this stuff, you will suddenly start seeing your photos of family celebrations out there and everything else, and we don't want that to end up in the public domain. So next is apps and websites. So if you're familiar with Facebook, one of the things you can do is log into other sites with your Facebook credentials. So for example, I log into TripAdvisor, which is a vacation planning site, with my Facebook credentials. And so all I have to do then is, as long as I'm logged into Facebook, I'm logged into TripAdvisor, and it knows who I am immediately when I go there. The same is true of Pinterest. We had a question about Instagram earlier. You might want to check this out and see if Instagram is in here. But Zoom is what we use for Zoom meetings. So they are linked up to my Facebook account. And the reason they do that is because I meet with a lot of my family and did over, well, that was going on. And then I have some other accounts in here as well for MS Walk, and you know, I'm a hunter and all that stuff, so for some reason that got in there. Facebook games and these companies that are here are entitled to access your profile information. So keep in mind that if you play Facebook games, they are not owned by Facebook. Those companies will oftentimes take your profile information and put it in a list and sell it to marketers. So that's one thing to be aware of, especially if you play a lot of Facebook games. You can still play the game if you remove yourself. Generally you can. So that's one thing to check on here. And in some cases, we go to Facebook accounts and help people secure them, and we'll see hundreds and hundreds of apps in here, and then they usually have a huge spam problem and everything else. So finally is the ad preferences, and here the first page of this is a lot of Zuckerberg speak, but if you read further down on the page, it tells you where to go to change some of your ad preferences. Clicking next will get you to this. Can Facebook use your relationship status, employer, job title, and education to send you marketing information? And I don't care to have them send me anything more than what they've sent me already. So, but if you put in your employer, you will start getting ads related to your employment. So, or whatever your employer does. The same is true of social interactions. I see these pop up on my feed once in a while, and I don't care that Joe Blow likes 3M Company. It doesn't matter to me. So I turn this off. And who can see your social interactions alongside ads, and it's only me. So I don't want somebody else seeing an ad out there and it's saying Matt likes this as well. I really don't think that's, I just don't like the way they advertise, so. So once we're done with that, we click on next. And now we're going to go to the ad settings in Facebook, which is our last little section here. Again, through the arrow, settings and privacy, and we're going to click on settings this time. And then we go to ads. Another interesting thing out here is memorialization settings. Decide what happens to your account after you pass away. You have the option here of telling Facebook to delete it, which is what I've done because I want them using me no longer, even after I'm dead. So, but there are options in here. You can also give your credentials to a trusted friend, that sort of thing, child, whatever. But for right now, we're going to go click on ads, see that. And you'll see our ad preferences. The top two let you block or manage the existing advertisers on your account. And by default, you see advertisers right here is lit or is highlighted. And advertisers I've seen most recently, and you can see that mine are hidden. I tell it, hide these ads. I don't want to see them anymore. I'm probably one of the more frustrating people to Facebook because I regularly do this, because I just get tired of seeing these ads, because when I see these ads, I don't see what's happening in my kids' lives because the ads are there. So I hear a lot of people complain, well, I never see anything from my friends on Facebook. It's because your feed is clogged with this junk. So you can come in here and you can hide those things and turn them off, and it's all of a sudden you hear from people you haven't heard from in years, and they've been posting like crazy. This is how new advertisers find you, and it's also how they get information out of Facebook in this ad settings. So this is one area that we're going to dive into a little bit here, and you can go through any of this when you're in your Facebook account. But audience-based advertising. And so what happens here is people or advertisers can upload a list of email addresses and passwords, usually that are gained through some other data breach. into Facebook, and they can use that to advertise to you because they claim that they've had a prior relationship with you, which is something Facebook allows. And by default, all of these things are turned on. So when you click on that, you will see a giant list. And I think in my case, it was 600 and some items that are in here. So there's 600 and some advertisers that are trying to feed into my Facebook. If we click on each one, what we'll get is an option to control how this advertising is used. So is this advertiser allowed to show me ads using a list? I don't allow that. By default, in your terms and conditions for signing up with a Facebook account, this is set to allow, just so you know. So you have to come in here and manually turn these all off. Excluding you from seeing ads using a list. So if I'm selling Ford trucks, I can tell whoever's on my list that I can tell Facebook, don't show them any ads for Chevy. So this has come into play with some of our recent political stuff as well. So don't show them ads from the competing politician. That sort of thing can be put in here as well. So one of the things I encourage people to do is go in here and take a look at who's actually advertising to you and where this is coming from and signing you up. So if you're getting a lot of mortgage ads, definitely look for Rocket Mortgage. I think they're in here a lot, and some of their cohorts as well. So that ends, I think, our Facebook security primer for everybody. I don't know if we made it through in an hour or not. No, we did not. I'm sorry for keeping everybody over time, but if you have any questions, we can try to address those now, or if you want to, we can wait until we're offline. Anything else? I think I need to encourage you to fill out the comment forms as well, because any future classes that we hold will be based on your comments. So if you're interested in learning some more about something, please let us know. I think, and I can't speak for the folks that run this class, but I think one of the things they wanted us to do next was some social media stuff. So we'll probably talk about Snapchat and Facebook a little bit more and how to use that, Pinterest and Instagram and some of those other applications that are out there today, TikTok, where we can all do little dances and have bunny ears and stuff like that. We can do that sort of thing as well, but please fill that out for our organizers. So with that, thanks a lot.